There we go. And we're live. Hey guys, what's going on? James here. Welcome back to yet another episode of the MrBucsNation podcast. Joining me, as always, you know him, you love him. It's Billy. Will_Walsh_NFL on YouTube. I almost said .com for some reason. Look, we're trying to get Billy over here to 1,000 subscribers as I'm getting a phone call. Billy, how you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm very excited. Can't wait to talk about some Bucs news.
Yeah, so really the theme of today's episode explains itself. We're going over the first wave of free agency for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's been a lot of moves made, Billy. A lot of moves made for the Bucs and what they have been able to do throughout this process. We're going to talk about that and also talk about some stuff that we may want to see them do maybe in wave 2 of free agency. So, you ready to dive into it, sir?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. The first move that was made was Mike Evans coming back on a 2-year, $41 million deal. Billy, Mike Evans, I don't have to tell you how good he is. Everybody knows how good Mike Evans is, but he has been brought back on a 2-year, $41 million deal. What were your thoughts and opinions about that move when it was made?
Yeah, I think it was it's been very well documented right here in this forum on this podcast how both you and I felt and still feel about Mike Evans. I think both of us were very clear that we thought a contract would get done and both sides would come to an agreement. Of course, they did. As far as the contract specificities, I think Jason Light did a fantastic job negotiating the price. I think for the Buccaneers, it's at a very fair price point for a guy who produces like Mike Evans produces. However, I wish the length, the length slightly irks me just a little bit. I do, that was when I first saw it, I think it took me back a little that it was only 2 years. After giving it a little bit more thought, you kind of remove yourself from the immediate reaction and you realize it might have been savvy for Jason Light to do it just for 2 years rather than making it a longer commitment. Because you don't know how much longer, as much as we all love and appreciate Mike Evans, he is getting up there in years, and you don't know how much longer he's going to be able to produce at top wide receiver level. So it might be a savvy move, but to me, that was just the one thing that I was surprised to see.
I think I brought this up to you whenever we had talked about it. Maybe that's all Mike Evans wanted was a 2-year deal. It's definitely a possibility. That could have been, hey, I just want a 2-year deal. And then maybe, does that mean he only has 2 years left? I don't know. But maybe that was something where Jason Light wanted to give him a longer term deal. And the agent, Mike Evans, said, give us a 2-year deal. We want 2 years. We don't know. We'll never know. We weren't in those negotiations, Billy. Would have been fun if we were, but we weren't. I agree with you. I think the value of the contract is great because remember, Billy, a lot of people were talking about how Mike Evans is going to get $30 million per year, $35 million per year. Brother, if he goes to the Jets, they're going to give him $50 million per year. Didn't happen. And people can call it a hometown discount, a loyalty discount, whatever you want to call it. It seems like all parties are satisfied with this deal. I mean, of course they are, otherwise they wouldn't sign the deal. I don't remember the max value of the contract. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I don't.
While you look that up, I think it's important to my counterpoint, because we did discuss this. My counterpoint to that was Jason Light was in a tougher spot than I think people realize with this contract because if Jason Light gives Mike Evans all the bag, right? He gives him a 4-year contract and it's a high-priced 4-year contract, right? Just map out this contract, but over the next 4 years. There's a chance that Jason Light is paying for a 34-year-old Mike Evans at a really high price tag, and he may no longer be worth that high price tag when that time comes, right? Instead, and we were just kind of talking about this, instead paying for him for 2 years, you feel a lot more secure that 2 years from now, yeah, Mike Evans will likely still be good, right? 4 years from now, well, it's tough to forecast, right? He's not a young player. So Jason Light wasn't in the most obvious of situations, right? Sure, you'd like to just lock up Mike Evans forever, but you could be paying him to be a top 3 receiver, a top 5 receiver in the league when he no longer is that because just at a certain point, his consistency has been tremendous, but at a certain point, injuries and age may factor in, and he may be slowed down by, you know, father time.
I don't know the max value of the deal. I can't seem to find it here on my end, but Mike Evans also only carries a $6.9 million cap hit in the first year. That's great. $22.3 million cap hit in 2025, which honestly isn't really that bad in my opinion. It gives the Bucs cap flexibility. Overall, it's just a good deal. It just is. I think that it is just a fantastic deal for the Bucs, for Mike Evans. Took less money, but he gets to stay home. Apparently, Mike Evans' wife had a big say in this as well, where he was going to hit the open market, but Mike Evans' wife said, no, I want to stay in Florida. And then they stayed in Florida. So
And did you happen to catch Mike Evans' press conference when him and Jason Light sat down and in front of the media to discuss it?
did not know.
So I just, if you got anyone out there who didn't, definitely it's on the Bucks YouTube channel. I think it's worth a look. Just the most humble, hardworking superstar imaginable. Mike Evans has accomplished so much in his career. It'd be very easy for him to take a different attitude and a different approach. But throughout that entire press conference, he talks about how he has more to achieve, more to accomplish, and more to prove. And it's amazing to see a guy who, again, has done as much as he's done take that approach when there are plenty of people who have done less and don't carry that mindset with them.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, obviously, we don't have to tell it. Like, it's just more of the same, right? We've talked about Mike Evans for so many years, and he's just the GOAT for a reason, man. It's because he's really good at football and just an overall good dude. But that wasn't the only move that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made, Billy. Another move that was made, here's the big one. Baker Mayfield was brought back on a 3-year, $100 million deal. Baker Mayfield is the $100 million man, is what I'm going to start calling him now. And this is a really interesting deal, in my opinion. So the average salary is $33 million. He has a total of $50 million guaranteed, and he got $40 million at the signing of the deal. He is scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent in 2027. Billy, before we break down this contract even more, what are your thoughts and opinions on the Mayfield deal?
I love it. I may love it more than I love the Mike Evans deal. All right, no, maybe not. Maybe I love the Mike Evans deal more. But still, yeah, I love it. And again, founding members of the Baker Brigade right here. We've been talking about it for the longest time. Of course, Baker Mayfield was never going to leave. The Buccaneers were not going to allow someone they view, whether you or I or anyone else, they view as a franchise quarterback, walk out the door. It's a potential opportunity that the Bucs have not really had to have a young franchise quarterback in their prime playing for your team when you have pieces around him to potentially be successful and make a run at something. Of course, the Bucs are not going to let him leave. James, you and I quite literally told everyone exactly what the contract was going to be. We said 3 years, 100 million. It's 3 years, 100 million. So yeah, I love the contract for the Buccaneers. I think Baker Mayfield, very similarly to how I feel about Mike Evans' contract, I think Baker Mayfield could have went and got more elsewhere, right? And I don't want to call it a hometown discount. I think it's good, smart business, right? I think 3 years, 120 million from the Patriots is not as much in terms of value as 3 years, 100 million from the Bucs. Because Baker Mayfield, and we talked about this too, it wasn't just about the bag. It was about obviously securing long-term financial stability, but it was about fit. And Baker Mayfield was not going to set himself up. He's a guy who has been in a few different terrible situations in his career. He's not looking to put himself in another one. And he feels safe and secure in Tampa Bay with a coaching staff that loves him, a team that is being built around him, right? Brought in an offensive coordinator strictly because of his history with Baker Mayfield, has the pieces at the receiver position, the running back position to be successful around him. I don't think there was any way he was going to leave. I think all the rumors about Minnesota, Atlanta, so on and so forth. I think a lot of that was just, an agent doing what an agent is supposed to do. You try to get your client as much as you can, of course, but I don't think there was much chance Baker was ever really looking into other options seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that in terms of the deal that was done. I think it's a good deal for the Bucs. I saw somebody describe this for the Calvin Ridley contract, and I'm going to describe it the same way. Like, this is a life altering contract for Baker Mayfield. It's the most money he's ever made in his career, bar none. By the way, I see a spare in there. Yes, I will get my thumbnails updated. But I also see people harp on this contract a little bit, understandably so. The people who have harped on Baker Mayfield before will, surprisingly, continue to harp on Baker Mayfield. And it is what it is. You know, some people are going to agree with this move. Some people are going to disagree with this move, and that's fine. That's what being a sports fan is all about. A couple of interesting things in this move for me. Number one is Baker Mayfield is still the 16th highest paid quarterback in the league, even after getting $33 million per year. You look at average salary, you look at total guarantees, you look at guarantees at signing, whatever it may be, the total value of the contract, it all lines up to Baker Mayfield being number 16. Guys are making more than Baker Mayfield who aren't as good as Baker Mayfield. Guys who
right?
are better than Baker Mayfield are making less than Baker Mayfield. Not many guys, but point being is that, folks, this is just how the NFL works. If the logic is to say, we don't know if this guy can be good consistently, so don't pay him, by that logic, nobody would ever get paid. Because it's not a guarantee that anybody can stay consistent. We've seen some of the best players in the entirety of the NFL drop in consistency. Sometimes those things just happen. At the end of the day, Baker Mayfield played well enough to earn the trust of the Buccaneers moving forward as a potential franchise guy, and now that's how they've been viewing him. That's how they've
Yeah.
been viewing him moving forward.
Yeah, and if I could double down on two things you said there, which I loved, about, some of the naysayers potentially, like the Buccaneers, the great thing about the contract, they're not overly committed to Baker Mayfield. They didn't stretch themselves too thin and overpay for him based on the market. Like, he makes less than Daniel Jones. And while a lot of people may be anti-Baker Mayfield, I don't know too many people who think Daniel Jones is a better quarterback. And really, when you look at the way the contract breaks down, the Buccaneers have an out after 2 seasons. So if Baker Mayfield is not good next year and then he struggles the year after, or he's good this year and then struggles in two, they don't have to stay. It's not a 5-year contract. It's not a 4-year contract. It's a 3-year contract with an out after two. They're not overly committed to Baker Mayfield. I don't think that they had to jump fully into the pool to get him back and get an opportunity to rock with him for the next few years, which is another portion of why I really like the contract, because they're not so tied down that they can't potentially get out if they need to. The other thing that I kind of did want to talk about, when you referenced the trust that Baker had gotten from the organization and earned from the team and everything like that, we alluded to the fact that this was going to be the case, but then it was proven true by comments made by both sides. Mike Evans is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer in large part due to Baker Mayfield. And that shows you how far Baker Mayfield has come a few seasons ago, right? We all remember everybody thought Baker Mayfield's teammates didn't like him and his receivers didn't like him, right? In his time in Cleveland, Odell Beckham Jr., that was a very big, dramatized moment for Baker Mayfield in his career, and it really changed the narrative. And now you have here in Tampa Bay a potential future Hall of Fame receiver, the best receiver in Bucs history. And Baker Mayfield was used as leverage to get him back on the team. That is a huge deal for Baker Mayfield, that he developed that cachet in just one season with Mike Evans and with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where it's like, look, yeah, you could leave, but you'd be leaving this guy. And that guy that Jason Line's able to point to is Baker Mayfield. And like, for Baker Mayfield to be viewed in that positive like light, I think it says a lot about how far he's come. And it's also, it's very nice for him for his career. It's a nice notch in his belt because Mike Evans is a highly, highly respected wide receiver.
One thing that's couple of things that are super interesting also, just for the specifics of this deal. $10 million cap hit, $10.7 million cap hit in the first year. He has a base salary of $1.1 million, so a very team-friendly deal in the initial sense. Now, Spot Rack does say the Buccaneers have a potential out after year one. I say potentially because, yes, they would free up $10 million, because Baker Mayfield's cap hit in the second year is 39.6 million, but the dead cap number would be 29.2 million. So that's pretty extreme. What gets really interesting about this deal is in year 3 in 2026. Baker's cap hit is $49.6 million and the dead cap number is only 9.6. So that has led a lot of people to view this as a 2-year, really a 2-year, $60 million deal.
Yeah.
And I do agree with that, but it also wouldn't surprise me come 2026, Baker Mayfield at the age of 31, if he does continue to play well, gets an extension, spreads that cap hit number out as well. I've seen some people allude to that on Twitter and social media and whatnot, but it is interesting that right off the cuff here in 2024, Baker said, hey, much like Mike Evans, let me do this deal to lower my cap number. No void years in this deal as well, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I would project that Baker Mayfield will continue to play well. I do think he played maybe at his peak last season, so I don't know if he'll play as well, but I don't predict that he'll fall off the cliff, so to speak. I do project that he'll continue to play well, and I think it's likely, yeah, they won't let him play out the last year of this deal. If he plays well for 2 seasons or the next 2 seasons, then he will get that opportunity to extend his contract and, like you said, push some of that away so there's not that massive cap hit in year 3. I think that is a very likely scenario, and I think Jason Light's very aware of that when he makes the contract and, agrees to it and everything. I think he's very aware of the possible future ramifications of the deal.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that this is something that just gives the Bucs flexibility moving forward, right, in a couple years from now. But I do believe this means that, yes, Baker Mayfield is going to be the Bucs quarterback for at least the next 2 seasons. That's the
Yes.
way I see the situation.
Yeah. It's 2 years and kind of a prove it deal over the span of 2 years,
Right,
in
right.
a sense.
I wouldn't even say prove it. It's just a deal,
2 years, yeah, 2 years kind of see where we are. And then okay, I'll give that to you. I'll give that to you.
Because Baker did prove it. That's why he got the
Yeah, he
deal.
did.
But the next deal I want to talk about, I'm going to be honest, Billy, I don't like this. It's the franchise tag for Antoine Winfield Jr. I like that Antoine Winfield Jr. is staying around. I do not like that $17 million cap hit. That hurts. And I think that moving forward, now the next thing the Bucs should be prioritizing is getting a long-term deal done with Antoine Winfield Jr. The cap hit, the franchise tag, player doesn't have fun playing on it. The team doesn't like applying it. And it really is just kind of a let's just apply this while we wait to get a long term deal done. I don't think, or you applied if you have some real, just maybe animosity is the word. Maybe not even animosity, but bad negotiations going on where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
fine, I guess we don't have a choice. I don't see that for the Bucs personally. I think Winfield wants to be in Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay obviously wants Winfield to be around, and I think ultimately a long-term deal will get done. But what I don't like about it is that this $17 million cap hit is just right smack dab punching you in the face. What are your thoughts and opinions about the franchise tag? I think that getting a long-term deal done with AWJ is going to be that priority now moving forward into the second wave of free agency, let's call it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's the necessary evil of the situation. The Buccaneers had a lot to do in a very short stint of time, and the franchise tag allowed them to look elsewhere and accomplish other things first. So, yeah, I think it's a band-aid, for a situation in that sense. I'm not concerned that they won't get a deal done, however. I think that kind of like what you're talking about. I think I'm not sure it's a priority right this moment. I think the Buccaneers might still have a few like bargain free agents that they look to move on first, but certainly before the season starts, yes, I think something will be worked out with Winfield. They have a history with Godwin, Shaq. Jason Light has put guys on the franchise tag, and that hasn't led to a lack of negotiating. It's not as if once you're there, you're going to play out that 1 year deal, and then we're going to be stymied at a wall again next offseason. So I do think it's something that will get done. And again, necessary evil, I understand it. We talked about it. We both were in agreement that, yeah, Winfield Jr. is going to receive the franchise tag. The one thing I think that really works in his favor here, because of course it's going to be tough because he's probably going to want to reset the safety market, and the Bucs are going to be like, well, we don't want to do that. The one thing that really works in his favor is Todd Bowles because all of the stuff we're talking about, at least a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, is offensive moves and additions, right? Okay, got back Baker Mayfield. Cool. That's the quarterback. Got back Mike Evans. Cool. That's the receiver. We might talk about Chase Edmonds and Chase McLaughlin, and all that is great. Antoine Winfield Jr. is the most impactful defensive player for a team that has a defensive coach. So yeah, it's going to be hard for Jason Light he's going to hear it from Todd Bowles. Like, I need this guy. Okay. Like, yes, I'm so glad that we got back all these other key pieces. That's awesome. Well done. But this is my quarterback. Like Antoine Winfield Jr. is the X factor for Todd Bowles, just plugs him and plays him where he needs to, moves him all around the field, and can rely on him to be consistent and make plays. Young player who plays like a veteran. There's no way that Jason Light can look Todd Bowles in the face and say, well, we just can't afford to pay this guy. He's got to walk. It just won't happen because Todd Bowles needs Todd Bowles being a defensive minded coach puts the priority more so on keeping a highly talented defensive player like Winfield Jr.
I agree 100%. I think that obviously somebody did ask how do they determine the franchise tag for positions. It's the average of, I think it's like the top 5 or top 10 at the position, something along those lines. That's how they determine the franchise tag and all those different types of tags. But I agree with a lot of what you said. Winfield is the most impactful player on the defensive side of the football. I do ultimately believe a long-term deal will get done as well. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But you did mention this guy. The next person on my list is Chase McLaughlin, coming in with a 3-year, $12.3 million deal. Now, Billy, when I first heard about this deal, even today when I was reviewing it over on Bleacher Report, I was disappointed a little bit. I give it a B minus actually, because it's a lot of money to pay a kicker. And I feel like, and we talked about consistency. If there is one position where consistency can drop, it is kicker. And I will say, I'm looking at the specifics of the deal, and I do feel better about it. It's essentially a 1-year, $5 million deal. That's just the essential of the situation. It is a $5 million cap hit with $5 million in dead cap in the first year of 2024. After that, Chase McLaughlin's cap hit is $3.5 million in 2025, no dead cap. In 2026, $3.8 million cap hit, no dead cap. So they could move on from McLaughlin after 1 year and save money, right? With no dead cap worries. I like McLaughlin. McLaughlin was so fantastic this past year. One of the best seasons a kicker has ever had in Buccaneers franchise history. What worries me is that this was far and away the best year of his entire career. The second best year he had before that was a field goal percentage of 83.3% and a extra point percentage of 100%, which is still a good year, but given how much the Buccaneers relied on McLaughlin last year and really needed him to have that type of year, it does put a little bit of worry in me. And I am optimistic that he can keep up this pace of play, but it's going to be hard. What are your thoughts?
I'm surprised by your take on this one, James. Um, I'll say this. You're 100% right. The statistics don't bear out that McLaughlin is likely to duplicate his season from last year because his career has not been anywhere near what last season was, right? He's a journeyman before that. And last season, he missed 2 kicks in the regular season, and both of them were blocked. So a tremendous, right? Kicked at like 93% last year. A tremendous kicker. He was good from range. He was good in close with accuracy. Just tremendous. So yeah, I hear that. I'm gonna say my counterpoint is gonna be real simple, real straightforward. Kickers win and lose games. They're underratedly one of the most important positions on any football team. You'd be hard pressed to find a good, consistently competitive football team that doesn't have a good kicker. Unreliable kickers lose you games. Surefire, consistent kickers win you games. So I'm not afraid of the fact that, for Jason Light to double down, if we've got a good kicker, let's keep the good kicker around. Of course, yeah, with any position, and kickers are sort of mercurial, there is that level of like Can it be maintained? And are you just going to have that weird, mental funk that you get into where you start missing kicks? Of course, that could happen. But if you've got a good kicker, I think it's actually, I'd argue it's worth paying a good kicker. Good kickers are hard to come by and they are valuable. And Chase McLaughlin, not only is he consistent, but he's got a boot. So he can hit some rocket shots. And that is nice because it's something the Bucs have been missing. It was really a big part of why they went out and got McLaughlin and moved off of Ryan Suckup, who I was a very large fan of. So I think, yeah, if you've got a good kicker who you know can win you games, it's worth paying him. Give him a little extra, make sure he's happy, make sure he stays. But of course, yeah, inconsistencies, they do tend to run inside of that position rampant a little bit.
Well, see, I agree with you. I think that any position, if you are good, you deserve to be paid. I agree with that 100%. I mean, that's just how it is. If you're good at your job, you deserve more money. I mean, um, but yeah, it is going to be interesting to see if. And I look, I have faith in McLaughlin. I do. Um, but there is just that. Is it a stigma? Is it a stereotype? I don't exactly know what the word is, but there is always going to be that doubt a little bit in the back of my mind of, the Bucs have had some rough times at kickers
Yeah, but
before.
you're too damaged by past experiences there, James.
I
You can't
am.
let that seep into Chase McLaughlin. He's not a part of,
He's not a
the
part
Matt
of it.
Gay era or any of that.
He's not a part of it. No, that you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So I do have
And
faith.
and look at Matt Gay. You kind of talk about Chase McLaughlin, how his career did not start the way it went last season. Well, look at Matt Gay. I mean, the start of
Terrible.
Matt Gay's career was abysmal, miserably disappointing. And look at him now. He's one of the most consistent, solid kickers in the league, and nobody questions it. So, kickers are, again, it's a mercurial position, no doubt about it. But I think McLaughlin has the talent, and I like the idea of paying someone who you just alluded to it, paying someone who's earned it.
Yeah.
He played tremendous football last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was a big part of their success. He deserves to be paid as one of the better kickers in the league based off of that performance.
Another person who got paid was Greg Gaines, a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. Billy, this is an interesting one. Greg Gaines is not going anywhere for this upcoming season. He's going to make the roster. He's going to be on the team. The reason I say that is because his cap hits $3.5 million with a dead cap of $3 million. This guy ain't going anywhere. I mean, or if they do, the Bucs are just going to have to eat a big loss here. This was an interesting re-signing to me, and I just talked about the idea of McLaughlin. Where we talked about the idea of McLaughlin playing well and earning some money. In the case of Greg Gaines, really kind of fell off a little bit. He went from playing 67.5% of snaps in 2021 for the Rams, 77.2% of snaps in 2022 for the Rams, to 42.9% of snaps for the Bucs in 2023. Didn't really do a lot. He did have a quarterback hit there, a sack there, 24 total tackles, but all in all, he only started 2 games for the Bucs this previous season. Now, I say that to say this, in terms of looking at the deal at 3.5 million, you can view it a couple of different ways. One, you can think of it as an overpay, which based on what we know now or what we've seen previously, you can call it an overpay. But if you are looking at it in a more positive light, you can say, well, what does this mean moving forward? Does this mean that Greg Gaines is the absolute top backup on the Bucs defensive line going forward? Does this mean he may push a guy like Logan Hall for starting defensive line snaps going forward? Those are a couple of possibilities that we may see moving forward and could be indications as to why Greg Gaines got this type of contract. He's going to be 27 years old by the time the upcoming season starts, so he's still got some good youth to his side as well. What are your thoughts and opinions about this?
I think I didn't, I don't, I think it, when I originally saw the deal, I was surprised that it was 3.5 million because when we discussed it, what we thought it might be beforehand, we talked about a veteran minimum deal. But to come to the defense of Greg Gaines, because, I got to play devil's advocate a little bit. You listed some of his statistics and kind of comped what he did last year to what he did for the Rams. I think that's a little bit unfair because the Rams situation is much different than the Bucs. In Tampa Bay, Greg Gaines is not a starter. And right, the only reason that Greg Gaines got the opportunities he got is rotational role, and then he started when Vita Vea wasn't able to. right? When Vita Vea got hurt. In LA, Aaron Donald is like the defensive tackle, but he's really not a nose tackle like Greg Gaines is. So Greg Gaines was given a lot more opportunity in LA because Aaron Donald is more of a just an interior pass rusher. It's going to kind of play like off that nose. And I think Vita Vea and Greg Gaines play the same position, so it just limit the amount of opportunity that he's going to get. Um, I don't hate the idea. Well, you kind of talked about him pushing Logan Hall and stuff like that. If in big sets, heavy sets, if you want to shift him out to where Logan Hall is playing, or whether or not the team looks to re-sign a guy like William Golston, things like that. I just think that it's a little unfair to compare the two. Of course, he had a massive dip. I'm just looking at it here. A tremendous dip in statistics in terms of tackles and sacks. I mean, his last 2 years, for the Rams, 6.5 and then 7.5 sacks. And last year for the Bucs, 2.5. Or I'm sorry. I was looking at, I apologize. 4.5 and 4 sacks, and last year just one. So yes, a huge drop off. But again, I just think that has a lot to do with the situation not being exactly the same. And I think it's a situation where in Tampa Bay, his role is not going to be what it was for the Rams. Again, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know what Todd Bowles sees, but I think it could mean something about, like you said, Logan Hall, William Golston. Maybe he feels like Greg Gaines when he was able to plug him in for Vita Vea that he did enough to merit the opportunity to come back and maybe have a more expansive role next season, kind of moving him around that defensive front.
Yeah. We will have to wait and see what goes on with Greg Gaines. Again, who knows? Maybe he will push for those starting roles. Maybe it was one of those things where they viewed him as a backup. Todd Bowles came away from this previous season going, Greg Gaines, I like what we have in him. Let's see what he can do with even more time moving forward. A couple of other small signings that were made, by the way, before we dive into some of the last few things. Devin Tompkins and Brandon Walton both signed 1-year, $985,000 deals respectively. Both guys are viewed as backups, but Devin Tompkins is the starting returner. Billy, thoughts and opinions on those moves?
Another year at Devin Tompkins running some jet sweeps.
Yeah, hey, well,
Yeah.
sign me up, man. And Brandon Walton obviously being a backup tackle in there as well. You also have Chase Edmonds coming back on a 1-year, I believe it was like a $1.2 million deal, something along those lines. So that's another signing. Chase
Yes.
Edmonds,
I
friend of the
I love
channel.
Chase Edmonds. I love Chase Edmonds coming back to the Bucs. Obviously early in the season he was banged up, so you didn't get to see what you saw near the end of the season where he was actually kind of finding a nice little niche on the team. I think the deal is so cheap, it still allows the Buccaneers to go out and draft a running back, potentially in the mid to late rounds, that could kind of fill out that room. To everybody watching who didn't see it, I highly recommend you check out on this channel James's interview of Chase Edmonds because coming away from that interview, you really feel confident that Chase Edmonds is a very mature guy, well spoken, and really understands his role with the team and is very satisfied with the role that he had on the team last season and was talking, even though he wasn't already back, was talking about the fact that he would be very happy to return to the Buccaneers in that same role. So I think having a player with that mentality and on the contract that they're going to have him on, I think it sets the Bucs up to potentially continue to feature Rachaad White with the occasional splash play from Chase Edmonds sprinkled in, and also maybe draft a running back who can give you a little bit different dimension in the mid to late rounds of the draft.
Real quick before we finished up with the last couple of deals the Bucs made in terms of just signings. Before we dive into some other stuff, Jake Marta is still on the team, Jenna. So that's all good with that. Devin White, still, yeah, nothing on Devin White actually. Not even visiting other teams.
Should we talk about Devin White right now, or should we hit that later?
We can talk about it right now.
James, I got this sneaking suspicion.
Okay.
I put out a video about this on my channel. It's just my gut. I don't think the Devin White era in Tampa Bay is definitively over. Your thoughts?
Oh yeah, it is.
I don't think
It
so,
is.
James.
It is. It is.
I don't think so. I think there is a chance. I think there is a chance if there is no contract out there for Devin White, which as of right now, I know he is on a visit, I believe, to Seattle, and there's a lot of
apparently that report was fake.
okay, so even more so to my point, and I know there's a lot of rumors about Philly. I really I could see a scenario. It would not shock me if Devin White comes back. And I like what we got right here from Brandon. Yeah, I think it would be like for the minimum, a highly incentive laden contract. I'm talking like a 1 year, $3 million deal with like a max of like five based on playing time or statistics gained. I just think if I were Devin White's agent, and I'm not, but if I were, hey, we could go somewhere else for, obviously he's not going to get a long-term big money contract anywhere because it would have happened by now. And obviously his agent isn't the best agent because he really overestimated his value a season ago. But I would be like, hey, where can we set you up to get paid next year best? And it's probably a
I'd go.
return to the Buccaneers on a cheap deal.
I'd go to.
Todd Bowles,
I'd go to
I
Baltimore.
know I know I hear you on that, but that's still a new situation and there's no guarantees. You know what Todd Bowles brings. You know what the Buccaneers are. And yes, of course there may be some bad blood.
Counter.
Go ahead.
You know that they just benched you
I hear you,
in
James.
2 games in the playoffs
I hear you,
for
James.
KJ Britt.
James, I hear you. I'm just saying if Devin White were to come hat in hand to the Buccaneers with a different mentality and a new maturity, which you would hope the level of or the lack of interest from the entire league would force you to embrace. I think there's a chance. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm just saying I thought 2 weeks ago 0% chance. I no longer feel it's a 0% chance because
What
I
do you
think Devin
what
White is worth the minimum.
what are you at 1? Are you at 1%?
I'll just say I think Devin White's worth the minimum. I don't think that Devin White and I this is kind of backtracking on something we talked about a few streams ago where we're like, would you take him? I remember us having the conversation, would you take him back super cheap? And we both kind of said, I think a change of scenery is best for both parties. But if you could get Devin White back for the minimum, yeah, he comes with warts and he's far from perfect. But if you're getting him for the same price you're getting, you know,
Cat
KJ Britt for, or you're getting him for less than what you're paying Greg Gaines for, yeah, that value is it's there.
another so I would also say this, if the Bucks are willing to pay Devin White the minimum, why would any other, you mean to tell me that if the Bucks are
Go
the
ahead.
only team out of 32 to say we will give you the minimum, and if Devin, and I will say this, if Devin White had one other option depending on the team, I think he would take it.
So now here's my count, and this was my original counterpoint. I was talking about his agent. If I were his agent, yes, your pride is going to tell you I am not going back to the team that benched me on a minimum. That's your pride. That's your ego. And Devin White is shown to be a prideful fella. But if I'm his agent, I'm like, look, you know this system, you know this team, and we all know Devin White, if he was focused, locked in, and at his best, he's obviously better than KJ Britt. He just can't seem to play at his best consistently. But if you have the motivation that he should have, I'm telling him if I'm his agent, bro, take the cheaper deal. If you have two cheap deals, you don't want either of them. Take the cheaper deal with the team that you know and the coach you know, because you've seen with the success you can have with that team. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just thought before there was no way, and now I think, oh, okay. I see it as a potential opportunity. Again, it's a bargain basement deal for Jason Light. It would have to be. If a team offers him like, 1 year, $8 million, then forget about it. That's way more than I think the Bucs would pay. But if you could give Greg Gaines 3.5 million, you can give Devin White 3.5 million. That is value there. There is, can we at least agree? There's value there.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yes, I would say there is value. It's definitely it's definitely a low risk, high reward type of move.
Yes.
But I don't think it's gonna happen. It's not gonna
And
happen.
you don't think it's going to happen because and then we'll move forward. You don't think it's going to happen because of the Bucs perspective or because of Devin White's ego and pride not allowing it to happen?
Devin White's ego and pride, and I mean everything. I don't think the Bucks want him back. I don't think Devin White wants to be back, and I ultimately think he is going to get some other offers.
Okay. If he doesn't get the offers, I stand pat. I think it's possible.
We'll never know. We'll never know. We're not there with his agent. I mean, we could ask.
We're gonna know because he's not gonna get those offers, James. Nobody wants that guy.
Yeah, maybe.
We're gonna know. The offers would have come in. I'm telling you,
I don't
if the
know.
Bucks are there
If he
with
takes
that minimum
if
offer,
he takes one visit, he's out. He takes one visit, he's out. Speaking of inside linebackers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers re-signed Levante David to a one-year deal worth a max value of $10 million. Thoughts and opinions on that move, Billy?
yeah, this is another one we both were in total agreement on. Of course, the Bucks are never gonna let Levante David leave. He'll be back. It's really awesome to see how close Levante David is to walking off into the Central Florida sunset. It is like really fantastic. And I
West
personally loved, go ahead.
West Florida.
West Florida?
Let's
Okay.
not let's not get it twisted.
West Florida sunset. And it's really like, it's awesome to see an organization treat a player of his stature the way that they are. I really also, you got to appreciate Levante David being comfortable with being patient. It'd be very easy for him to get uneasy, but the last two seasons, they have really like handled him last, so to speak. And I'm sure there's communication like, look, we're going to get to you. We just have to do these other things first. But he's done a great job being patient and understanding that, yeah, I'm just going to get this 1 year deal and it won't be hard to negotiate it or work it out. So I'll just get done at the end. And you really have to appreciate that from his perspective. But it is nice to see the Buccaneers keeping around a guy who deserves to be kept around.
Yeah, I agree. Brandon puts it best. I mean, he's this era's Derek Brooks.
Yes.
He's the modern GOAT essentially. For Bucks defensively. He's
Yes,
gonna
good.
he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. He's gonna be in the Ring of Honor. He's gonna get all the accolades. He deserves it. He deserves it.
Yes, and we're lucky enough as current modern day, supporters of the team or covering the team, we're lucky enough to watch two of the greatest players in the franchise's history, right? Levante David and Mike Evans are going to go down as the best receiver the Bucks have ever had, and a top 3 or 4 defender the Bucks have ever had, and it's awesome to see, obviously, just to watch on Sundays, but it's also awesome to see the team recognize that and continue to do their best to keep them in the culture.
I agree. Last deal the Bucks made in terms of bringing in a face is a new face. Jordan Whitehead makes his return to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a 2-year, $9 million deal with a max value of $10 million. Billy, he's back, and this is one that we had talked about a good bit here on the channel. You had really staked your claim on this. Turns out the Bucks did have the money to bring back Jordan Whitehead. And what are your thoughts and opinions about it?
Yeah, it's a new face, but an old face. And
Yep.
it's beautiful. It is a beautiful face. This is such a good fit for the Bucks, such a good pickup. Obviously, you know what the scheme fit's going to be. You know what he's going to look like on the field for you. But safety was probably the biggest position or second biggest position of need for the Buccaneers this offseason. So the debate was, will it be something that's addressed in the draft? Can you find a player in free agency? Of course, we saw how finding a player in free agency went a season ago. Not that great. But I do think, yeah, bringing him in, it was very obvious that it was a great idea. And when I had kind of brought the subject up to you uh, a few streams ago, your counterpoint was, of course, financially, is it something that's possible? And glad to see that it was. A no doubt, I had to pull this up. A no doubt great pick. I had to pull this up. There's a stat. Ball hawk rate leaders at the safety position in terms of your ball hawk rate percentage from a season ago. Antoine Winfield Jr. is third on the list, and Jordan Whitehead is tied for fourth on the list. So it takes safety from a position where you had a star, but it's a position of need, to a position of strength. Maybe the best safety tandem in the league right now resides in Tampa Bay, and it's two guys who have played together before, know each other. There's comfortability there. One of the other cool things was all the former Buccaneers players on Twitter trying to recruit Jordan Whitehead, which is awesome because it shows you what he meant to that team when he was there and in that locker room. Even I saw Rashad White wanted Jordan Whitehead to return to Tampa Bay, and Rashad White has never played with Jordan Whitehead. So again, his mystique in that locker room, we can't speak to it, obviously not being in the locker room, but his mystique in that locker room must be legitimate for that to be the case. And I think it is a fantastic move, personally. Please, James, take the floor and just go off about how great this is.
No, I mean it's a great deal. Some people say he should have never left. The Bucks weren't in the financial position to keep him a couple of years ago. That's just the reality of the situation. He was making seven something million dollars before, 7.5. Now it's dropped down by 3 million, and the Bucks can afford that a little bit more. Uh, the duo of Whitehead and Winfield Jr. They were there whenever they won a Super Bowl. There whenever they made a deep playoff run in 2021. Just a good combination of guys. Just is. And one thing that's been so interesting is that even after Whitehead left, you've seen these guys, these rotations of Keanu Neal, Ryan Neal, Logan Ryan, all these different types of safeties the Bucks have had to use. Kayvon Merriweather's been in there. Nolan Ryan, the kid from Clemson, was in there for
Mike, Mike Edwards.
Mike Edwards was in there for a little bit. So, they missed Jordan Whitehead. And now to
Yes.
get him back on a 2-year deal, he's still young. He's still only 27 years old. It's a great deal for both sides because now Whitehead gets to be back part of the place that really earned him that contract from the Jets in the first place. And the Bucks get a good safety back and more continuity finally paired up with Antoine Winfield Jr. So I really think it's a great deal.
And if I could add two on the field where you're talking about, out of those lists of safeties you named, really Mike Edwards is the only one who is sort of an admirable fill-in for him because Mike Edwards was able to make some splash plays for the Bucks, but the Bucks missed Jordan Whitehead's physicality. Ever since he left, none of the people that they have replaced him with have been able to duplicate his ability to hit. And every defense that is going to be like a real defense, if you want to be a defensive-led team, even in the modern day NFL, you got to be able to tackle and you got to have someone who can thump. That's just important. And last year, really the last 2 seasons, tackling against, in the run game and also with receivers in terms of yak has been a difficulty for the Buccaneers defense, and nobody could thump. And bringing back Jordan Whitehead, he is a willing tackler and a willing smash mouth hitter. And that is just something that defenses need. If you want to be a defensive team, you need somebody who's got a little bit of like extra. And Jordan Whitehead he carries that mentality. And now you have maybe your two best tacklers on the team are your safeties, which is fantastic because it stops long runs and breakaway runs from happening because Antoine Winfield Jr., how many times do we see him shoot up and become a short tackler and nip an 8-yard run from being a 22-yard run? And now you have two guys capable of doing that. I think it's a very savvy move by Jason Light to go back and grab like I said, a new face, but an old face.
Yeah, and a couple of other things that the Bucks have done so far up to this point. They did release Shaq Barrett. We had talked about that in a separate video, just kind of putting a recap on that. He did join the Miami Dolphins, which I think's good for him. He gets to stay in Florida. Got a lot more than I thought he was going to get. And wish nothing but the best for Shaq. He's in the AFC now. Russell Gage was released as well. He is gone from the team. We'll see where he ends up going in free agency. Who knows? What are your thoughts and opinions about both those releases and where Shaq ended up?
I think both were expected, both kind of needed to happen, unfortunately. Really excited for Shaq that he was able to get that contract because you summed it up. That's so much more than I thought Shaq Barrett would get on the open market. I'm glad he gets to stay in Florida because, I know he has, a family, young kids. Moving families is difficult, so getting to stay in Florida is definitely nice. And I wish him nothing but the best. I hope it would give me great joy to see Shaq Barrett, 2 years off the injury. Maybe he's a little bit more back to his old form. And, I would love to see him go out and get double-digit sacks this season. Even I may not expect it, but it would give me great joy to see that happen.
And then what about in the case of Russell Gage?
Russell Gage was a good signing on paper and never really came to
Injuries.
fruition. Yeah, just unfortunately, he played sparingly in his tenure with the Buccaneers. On paper, it was a great move to bring him in as the potential third wide receiver option. In the last year, the most noteworthy thing Russell Gage did was get quoted or like misquoted by CJ Gardner Johnson. right? That's the most noteworthy thing he's done. So, of course, when CJ was going at Baker before the playoff game, talking about Russell Gage, and then Baker went back at him. Other than that, yeah, it's a move that just it had to happen. Wish it would have worked out better, but injuries, like you said.
Finally, the last thing the Buccaneers have done is they traded Carlton Davis to the Detroit Lions. Now, they traded Carlton Davis, a sixth round draft pick this year and a sixth round draft pick next year, to acquire a third round draft pick from the Lions, which is a top 100 pick. I believe it's pick 94, Billy. What are your thoughts and opinions about this trade?
So this trade, I didn't think. Obviously, we had the inkling that it might happen because the reports came out that they may be shopping him. And it surprised me because I didn't really take those reports too seriously. I just thought it would have been unlikely. But this is a savvy trade, and that's savvy with a capital S. This is an elite level, like general managing move. Third round picks are valuable picks, right? They could be starters, they could be contributors, they could be difference makers for you as long as you evaluate, scout well, and draft well. And I think for the Buccaneers to get off a guy who has had a history of injuries and has had really, really high highs, but simultaneously some of the lowest lows is a big deal. And I also think, in terms of, I have a video coming out on my channel right at the end of this live stream about this trade, kind of a more in-depth breakdown of it. I think this is what good teams do. Like, you move off of players a year too soon rather than a year too late. And for the Buccaneers, if you were going to lose Carlton Davis in next offseason because you knew you weren't going to look to re-sign him, then you get nothing for him. Versus move off of him now, you get yourself a third round pick that could turn into a starter for you. That could turn into a significantly contributing role player for you. So instead of getting nothing, you get something. And that also sets you up, it sets up the Buccaneers next year to really hand a much bigger role and a promotion to Zion McCollum, who played a lot last season due to those injuries to Carlton Davis, as well as some of the injuries to Jamel Dean. And you and I have remarked on this many times. Zion McCollum showed a good amount of growth last season from what he was in seasons previous. So I think it's a super savvy move. It's, of course, you don't want to see a player who has been, on the team for a while and a starter for a while and a contributor for a while walk out the door. But good organizations know when it's time to cut ties.
Yeah, I mean, is Carlton Davis a very, very good corner? Yes. Has he also not played an entire full season in his career? Yes. I think he's missed like 17 games in the past 3 years. It's a lot. And to still get a third round draft pick for that guy who was on the last year of his deal is a great move for Jason Light. I think people are undervaluing a third round draft pick. Robert Hainsey, the past 2 years starting center, third round draft pick. Chris Godwin, star wide receiver for the Bucs, third round draft pick. I mean, so Jordan Whitehead, fourth round draft pick. Mike Edwards, third round draft pick. So it's a good deal. It's a very
Yeah.
good deal for the Bucs. Yaya Diaby was a third round draft pick. So Jason Light really can hit on second, third, fourth round draft picks, and he just got another piece of ammunition there. So I do
And,
believe it's a good deal. Do the Bucs
and
now?
let me go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add on to kind of what you're talking about, like on the field to see a good player. Yes, it's easy to remember the games against DeAndre Hopkins, right? When Hopkins was a Cardinal, also when he was a Texan, and Carlton Davis just got busy, put the clamps on him. Or the game against Michael Thomas, right? Where he just, again, shut down and shut out Michael Thomas. Or the game against Jamar Chase a few years ago, right? Locks up Jamar Chase, got an interception against Joe Burrow. Tremendous. Remember the other games though, right? Remember 200 yards against Tyreek Hill when the Chiefs played the Bucs in the regular season, right? Remember last season, Carlton Davis against CJ Stroud led the game-winning touchdown with seconds on the clock, a back-breaking touchdown allowed by a corner who's supposed to be the guy for your team, right? You're supposed to be the number one corner. You just can't let up that play, right? And Todd Bowles said as much, called him out in the postgame. So again, yes, he has high highs, and it's easy to remember those high highs as holy cow, like that was amazing. remember the low lows because it's hard to justify paying a corner. You talked about it, who has not been consistent in terms of injuries, being able to play a full season. And on top of that, when he's on the field, yes, he could do great things, but he's also capable of being a detriment for your team as well.
So that's it. That's it for the Buccaneers' first wave of free agency, Billy. We've been talking for a good bit about this now, about an hour. So I think that it is time to end off this live stream the only way we know how to. What do you say?
We're going to be immaculate. Is that what you're telling me?
We are going to do an immaculate grid.
Are we going to go for our highest high of all time?
We can. We can try. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Here we go. We're here on the immaculate grid to end it off today. We have got the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. I already know one guy I could put on here.
Go ahead, lay it on me.
Current Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Billy. Do you know who it is?
Current Tampa Bay Buccaneer,
Mm-hmm.
the Miami Dolphins, and Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an obvious one?
Yeah,
Because it doesn't feel
we
like
mentioned him in today's show.
it. Chase Edmonds?
It is.
Nice.
I feel confident in putting Chase Edmonds.
I feel like Chase Edmonds, yeah. Who knows it? Who knows who Chase Edmonds is besides Bucs fans right now?
Nice. Nice.
Immediately off to a good start.
The Dolphins and the Colts.
Dolphins and the Colts.
Mm-hmm. I've also got the Dolphins and the Panthers. My mind went to Josh McCown, but that doesn't. Is that right? I don't know if that's right or not.
I don't think Josh McCown. No.
Dolphins and Colts, though. Who is somebody who played for the Dolphins and Colts? Shaq as of this year? Oh, well, for Dolphins and Broncos, yes. But also Bradley Chubb would have been an acceptable option.
Mm.
Dolphins and Colts, though. Thoughts and opinions, Billy? Jacoby Brissett is an option.
Jacoby Brissett is an option.
Teddy Bridgewater for the Panthers and Dolphins.
I'm still hyped about our free agency conversation.
Earl Morrall, Dolphins and Colts.
Earl Morrall, old quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that Willie? How did I know? Of course it was Willie.
What are you hyped
Well
up
done,
about?
Willie. That was a classic Willie pull.
What are you hyped up about?
I'm still hyped up about our conversation. I'm still in the zone.
Oh,
Carlton Davis, the corners.
there you go. Speaking of corners, Dolphins and Panthers. Are there any corners you can think of? Josh Norman? Teddy Bridgewater's there. He also could fit for Vikings, Panthers as well.
He could fit for Broncos and Vikings too.
That's a good point.
Teddy B's been
He's been around.
everywhere.
He's been around.
1,000-yard rushing season. That'll be an interesting one to do, Joe.
It will be.
All right. Dolphins, Panthers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Eli Apple's a good one. Eli Apple ever play for the Panthers? Vontae Davis? Did he? I don't think Vontae Davis ever played for the Panthers. He did play for the Colts and Dolphins, though. If that must be what Corey is referencing. Did Eli Apple ever play for the Panthers? I know he played for the Dolphins. Let's think. Any wide receivers you can think of?
I'm trying to think of Ted Ginn.
Ted Ginn is not a bad one. I'm going to go with Brandon's guess of Eli Apple.
Are we confident Eli played for the Panthers?
I'm going with Brandon.
Oh my gosh, this is nerve-wracking, James. This is only our third box, and we're
Brandon said
Vontae Davis. What about Vontae Davis? Corey Jenkins. Did Vontae Davis?
that's for Colts in Miami.
Colts in Miami. Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Jeff. Hey, I've seen Willie put this name in there before. Jeff, remember him? We didn't know how to say the name.
All right, we'll go with this now.
Going.
We did not go Eli Apple. I'm sorry, Brandon.
Really?
I'm sorry, Brandon. We didn't go Eli Apple.
Jeff Zagonia.
Zagonia.
Zaganini.
Vikings and Broncos.
0.08%.
Vikings and Broncos.
You know we got Teddy B in the back pocket.
Yep.
We also have Teddy B in the back pocket down 3.
Mm-hmm. Who is somebody who played for the Broncos and the Vikings? I feel like there's a running back. Like,
I was just thinking running backs. That's so funny.
Did Amir Abdullah? I know he played for the Vikings. Did Amir Abdullah ever play for the Broncos?
I don't know.
Michael Floyd, Andre Roberts.
I'm trying to think of kickers now.
Did Trevor Siemian ever play for the Vikings?
I don't think so.
Did Sean Hill ever play for the Broncos, Colts, or Panthers? Somebody said Case Keenum. He did play for the Vikings and the Broncos. This is true. Can confirm. I love Case Keenum so much.
You love Case Keenum?
It's great.
Why do you love Case Keenum?
That year he had with the Vikings was awesome.
That was pretty magical.
Except for whenever he kicked the crap out of the Bucs. That was not fun.
That was a magical year, no doubt.
That was such a fun year. Matt Castle. Ooh, Matt Castle played for the Vikings and the Colts, I believe, right?
I don't think he played for the Broncos.
I know. Latavius Murray. Ooh.
Josh Freeman, Vikings Colts.
I don't think he ever played a game for one of them though.
Chat, talk to me. Josh Freeman, did he play a game for both the Vikings and the Colts? He was definitely on both of those teams. Gus Farrat, former quarterback. Wow, holy cow.
Okay, I want to say Josh Freeman too. Do we just go
You
for
want
it?
to, right? I mean, that's it's former Buccaneer. We always go with Bucs if they're the option, I feel like.
We're going for Freeman.
All in. Josh Freeman, come on.
Okay, he did. Okay. Because I remembered the game against the Vikings. Such a horrible game. I felt
the worst game maybe by a quarterback.
I felt so bad for him because he had like one day to prepare.
Yeah, it was awful.
And then he had to play for the Colts because was that the Curtis Painter year? Whenever it might have been because Ryan Lindley got hurt or something like that. Vikings, Panthers.
Jared Allen, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
An easy one though.
Mm-hmm. Robbie Anderson ever played for the Vikings? I don't think so.
Oh, I don't think so.
Christian Ponder?
Wow, that's a name I have not thought of in the longest time.
Wow.
Christian Ponder, this man pulls out. I forgot all about Christian Ponder.
Christian Ponder's there.
I used to like Christian Ponder.
Huh?
Great name.
Yeah, great.
I said I used to like Christian Ponder. It's a great name.
What a great quarterback name.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Joe Webb.
What's Brandon got right here? Who is Todd
Strucy?
Who is that?
I have no idea.
Brandon, elaborate. Who is Todd Strucy?
He's right here.
94 to 07? Who is this person, Todd? Is it for Panthers Vikings?
I want to say Joe Webb. Remember Joe Webb?
Joe Webb is definitely a good one. I'm just curious. I've never heard of this Todd fella.
I'm going Joe Webb. Please be right. Yes, Joe Webb.
Good poll. Okay, this is going very well so far, I must say.
1,000 yards rushing for the Denver Broncos.
So it has to be in a season he played for the Broncos, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
1,000 yards rushing for the Broncos, Colts, and Panthers. How many of these can be Frank Gore? One? Maybe two? I mean, you want to
Maybe
go
three.
CJ Anderson for the Broncos? No Sean Moreno?
Wow, Adam Thielen. How come we didn't even think of that?
That's good. That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, well, that was definitely one we should have thought of. Well done, Corey.
Ooh, Philip Lindsay for the Broncos. That's true. He did have a
Did he rush
thousand.
for 1,000?
He did. I actually looked this up recently.
I was thinking of um, and we could take this on the
Somebody,
chats.
somebody said Mike Anderson,
The,
Broncos.
I was thinking Clinton Portis.
Um,
Clinton Portis definitely did it. I don't know how what we think is more rare.
I think Mike Anderson's a pretty rare one. 2000 to 2007. Okay. Colts.
Good stuff, people.
Who had 1,000 yards for the
Yeah.
Colts? Frank Gore might have. He might have.
Um, Edgerrin James, Marshall Faulk.
Billy,
Trying to think of
I'll have you look at the chat. 1,000 yards rushing. Gore, Jonathan Taylor's on there.
Eric Dickerson is in the
Ooh,
chat.
ooh. Oh my gosh. There was a running back. He had really long hair. Maybe I'm thinking of Adrian James. That might be who I'm thinking of.
How long ago did he play?
Oh, it was like Joseph Adai. Did he have a
I don't know
thousand?
if he ever got 1,000 yards though. Of
Remember Joseph Adai though?
course I do. Yeah, and Donald Brown.
Yeah.
I remember Joseph Adai. I don't know if he ever like
Joseph Adai
ever
was
panned out.
Joseph Adai was cool.
You big Joe Adai guy?
I just remember he was one of those backs like him, Marion Barber, like in like the mid 2000s where you're just like, yeah.
Julius Jones,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah,
Felix
absolutely.
Jones.
I don't think I don't think Joseph Adai got 1,000 yards. I just don't think that I don't know. I mean, I'm curious, like, I don't know that he like did the Colts run the ball enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a
I've
good
to answer you, Robin Hood, I believe you could do Baltimore Colts if you have a Baltimore Colt.
Yes. Yes, you could. And in that
Right
case,
now, I think our leader, though, it's got to be Joseph Adai right now, right? Because Edgerrin James feels obvious. It's a Hall of Famer. You know, Eric Dickerson.
Lenny Moore.
Joseph Adai is kind of a forgotten man in league history.
He is. It's true.
He won the Super Bowl? Was he on the, he was on the team when they won the Super Bowl.
We can check after this. I'm pretty sure.
And Anthony Johnson, we just got two good ones
Where's the other one?
in the chat. We got Anthony Johnson for the Panthers and Dominic Rhodes for the Colts. I'm not sure about Dominic Rhodes, but I remember Dominic Rhodes.
We will do both. Why not? Dominic Rhodes. Okay.
Oh,
And Brandon for the last one from 3. Oh, God. But which Anthony Johnson
oh
is it?
no.
It's got to be the one from 1990 to 2000.
Hold on. It can't, well, it's not 2023.
No, it's not
I don't
2014
know
or
who the other.
2017.
Hold on. Which Anthony Johnson is it?
It's got to be 1990 to 2000. Has to.
Brandon, you're in the corner for the three.
Yeah,
Quickly, let us
it
know.
has to be. It has to be. I'm going for it. You really?
Oh my gosh, James.
There we are
25. Dang.
for 0.7%.
Our worst thing was a 9. Dang, we did so good.
We did.
Wow, 25. All right, that's our second best run ever, guys.
Apparently, not a lot of people got Vikings and
In
Colts.
Colts.
Yeah, interesting. Let's take a
And we
look.
put in a buck right there.
We did. Who else was some people? Josh Freeman was
Oh,
one.
Xavier Rhodes.
Oh
I
yeah,
totally forgot about him.
he was the number one answer apparently.
I totally forgot about. Oh, Devin Aroma should do. I used to love me some Devin Aroma should do.
Oh wow. Um, Shook recently. Yannick Ngakoue. Okay. Andrew Sendejo. Sheldon Day. Jamarcus
Three
Webb.
names. Sean Prater. Wow, that's a great poll.
Joshie Freeman.
Who thinks of Sean Prater?
Okay, I need to go to 1,000 yards rushing for the Colts. Joseph Adai, he did do it.
Wow.
King, what a king.
Well done.
He did it a couple of times. Curtis
Lydell Mitchell. You know what? I saw Lydell Mitchell in the chat. Who
Curtis
said it?
Dickey
Willie.
Curtis Dickey did it
Oh
once.
no, it was actually Robin Hood who said it first. Well, Robin Hobbin. Well done,
What was
Robin.
our guess for Dominic Rhodes? He did
Yeah,
it once.
one time.
That
It's a
was
good
it.
poll.
It's a very good
It's a
poll.
good poll.
I need to
Frank
go.
Gore was on there. You were right.
Joseph Adai did win the Super Bowl. Heck yeah.
Who was the Panthers? Because they have the least. That was a tough one to kind of like.
Five
We
players,
definitely,
yeah.
yeah, we definitely got the most rare choice out of that option.
Um,
Yeah,
McCaffrey's done it
Stephen Davis.
twice.
We
Jonathan,
had all of them.
yeah. Stephen Davis, yeah, Stephen Davis. Dang, Stephen Davis kind of got that dog in him. 3-time Pro Bowler. Wow, he was just actually a good running back. What the heck?
Yeah, he was on the original Carolina Panthers Super Bowl team when they
He had,
lost to Brady.
he had 17 touchdowns in 1999. He had 356 attempts in 2001. Oh my God.
Ran the man into the ground.
Jesus. How did he play after that year?
And he still put up 1,000 yards 2 years later.
Holy
1,400.
crap. Dude, in 2 years, he had 688 rushing attempts. That is insane.
That is really insane.
Holy crap, and he had 61 receptions. How is he alive? Oh my,
This man threw it.
holy crap.
He had a long career too.
Was Washington good those years? Let's see. They won 8 games in 2000 and 8 in 2000. It didn't even matter. Oh my God, poor Steven. Poor Steve. That's got to be. Hold on. I want to look and see what's the most rushing attempts in an NFL season. That's got to be up there, right? Let's see.
That seems ridiculously high.
Okay, well apparently Larry Johnson had 416 in
Oh, you know what? A part of me
2000s.
did know that Larry Johnson had that going for him. James Wilder, Buccaneers.
Yeah, wow, 407 in 1984.
Nice, man.
That's insane.
It's a lot of touches.
DeMarco Murray had 392 in 2014. But his is up there. His is where is his? Derrick Henry's at number 19
Derrick Henry.
with
Oof.
378.
Gosh.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's crazy. What's those passing attempts in I think
60 something, right?
no, I mean in a season.
Oh, in a season.
Brady's number 1.
He's also three.
That 2022 and 2021 seasons. Wow, he's 1-3. Isn't that crazy?
With 2012 Matt Stafford.
727. Jesus. Yeah, Brady at 44 and 45 throws the same amount as a 24-year-old Matthew
24-year-old
Stafford.
Matt Stafford.
That's
Yeah.
disgusting. What about the most passing attempts? This is per game. I assume Brady's number
It's
1.
60,
No, it's
right?
passing yards per game. Okay, let's do pass attempts in a game. No, that's in a career. Well, of course Brady's going to be number 1 on that. Can we do... Okay, a single game. Let's go to this. Let's go passing attempts in a single game.
I think it's Ben.
Okay, well, apparently we can't... Hold on. Can we do...
I think Ben Roethlisberger had a crazy amount one time, I remember.
most passing yards in a single game.
You just cannot get this.
It won't let us do it. What the heck? Other passing leaders. Okay, just take me to the leaders indexed, I guess. Passing attempts per game. I don't care about passing attempts per game. Let me get passes attempted in a single game.
Here we go.
Found it. 70 by Drew Bledsoe.
Wow, I was way off. Ben's all the way down at 8 with 66.
Holy crap. Hey, Brian Greasy coming in. for Tampa Bay at number 7.
Number 7.
He
Tom
threw
Brady
s-
also in there.
he threw 67 passes in 2008. Did the Bucs win that game?
Definitely not, James.
They did.
Oh,
They did. They did win
I'm
in
greasy.
overtime. No
In the
wonder he
clutch.
no wonder he threw 67 passes. It went to
That was a
overtime.
lot of passes. Holy
Jared
cow.
Goff threw 68. Oh, remember that game, the 2019?
Yes,
Wow.
I do. Vinny
Goff.
Testaverde, 69. True plus of 70 passes. That is just nuts.
That is actually insane. I
It's
could.
far too many
What's
passes.
the most
That's a
rushing?
bad job.
What's the most rushing attempts in a single game? It's a good question. Most
It's
pick
obviously
sixes in
Stephen
a single
Davis.
game? Let's see.
Obviously Stephen Davis, James.
Eli's at 3. Jameis was at 2. It's tied for 5th.
Wonderful.
Love. Ooh, actually, you know what? Most pick sixes in a single season. Yep, Jameis number 1. Wow, 7?
Who is the man who is in second place with Peyton? Rudy Buckick?
Hey, he won a championship, so
Rudolph Andrew Buckick?
yeah, he won a
Bukick?
he won a championship. He also played in the league for, oh my gosh, 2, 4, 6, 15 years.
Good for him.
Wow.
Been
That's
around.
also LOL. Jameis has the most pick sixes in a season. That's insane.
That was fun.
That's insane.
Thanks for bringing that up, James.
Jameis is number 1. Um, let's hold on. Can we get rushing attempts on here?
Yeah, 400. I agree in the chat. 400. That is just wild. I agree.
Most
That is
rush.
just insane.
Oh, this is the most rushing yards in a single game. Okay, well we know that one. It's 296. Most rushing attempts in a single game. 45 by Jamie Morris. How about that?
James Wilder up there again.
Yeah,
He's up there twice, James.
yeah.
He has 43 and 42.
Most rushing touchdowns in a single game. I think Kamara is tied for first. No, he is number 1. Yeah, he had 6.
Okay.
He had 6 against the Vikings.
Look at my man Cookie with 5. Cookie Gilchrist was up there with 5.
I love it. What's the most receptions in a single game? Probably Michael Thomas. No, Brandon
No,
Marshall,
Brandon
21.
Marshall. Yeah, he beat T.O. We saw this.
Love it.
I remember that game when he beat T.O.
Michael Thomas had 16 against the Bucs in 2018. That's disgusting.
Nice. James, you're bringing up all these happy memories.
I'm sad. What's the most touchdowns in a single? Yeah, okay, Alvin Kamara. Gale Sayers had 6 though. It's tied.
My man Dub Jones.
Dub Jones, baby. It's fantastic. Well, Billy, with that being said, I think we're good to end off this this stream. What do you think?
Oh, this was a fun one.
It was a good one.
This
Do you
was
have
a fun one.
Do you have any final words before we go ahead and get out of here?
Do I have any final words? I'll just say free agency has just begun, and yet I am very pleased. I think Jason Light, Bucks fans, we should all be embracing what Jason Light has done thus far. Wrap your arms around it. It's been a very good offseason for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to this point. Hopefully that momentum can keep going forward. Excited to see what the team decides to do in the rest of free agency and then in the draft.
By the way, the Seattle Seahawks have traded for who's the quarterback from Washington?
Which one?
The guy who just started last year, Sam Howell.
Oh, your guy.
Yeah, they traded for Sam Howell.
That's your guy, James.
I'm gonna be torn. It's gonna be him versus Geno Smith. I'm not gonna know what to do.
You love you some Sam Howell.
Yeah, so we'll see. But there you go. Also, Devin Bush has signed with the Cleveland Browns, not Devin White. Could you imagine?
No, Devin White is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer for life. That's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I see it. I smell it, James.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream. Hope you all enjoyed. We will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. Go subscribe to Billy, by the way. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers. He's uploading content every single day, and it's a beautiful thing. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.